I'll entertain a motion. Oh, I'm sorry. Let him go. And after that, I'll entertain a motion for the consent.
Did you want to just put this on the consent?
No, I'm not going to put you on consent. Nice try, yes. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This bill, SB 1357, would create the California Community College Assistance Grant Program. An assistance grant would provide $1,500, augmenting awards received by recipients of Cal Grant B, entitlement and competitive awards, who attend a California community college. As you all know, the cost of higher education comes in many forms: tuition, books, supplies, transportation, living expenses, loan debt taken out to cover some of these expenses. Nearly half of all California community college districts have their tuition waived as part of the Board of Governors fee waiver program. The tuition cost of community colleges is only $46 per unit, which is among the lowest tuition in the nation. Yet a recent study by TICAS, the Institute for College Access and Success, shows that a majority of community colleges, in their analysis, at a majority of community colleges, low-income students would need to work at least 35 hours per week to cover their net costs. That's part of the reason we're not seeing the success we'd like to see among our community college students. These net costs include outside expenses beyond the tuition that I mentioned. Again, things like books, supplies, transportation, and living costs. They make up about 90% of the cost of full-time community college attendance. Last week, this committee unanimously supported my bill, SB 1359, which creates additional transparency for textbook costs when a student's registering for classes. We're hoping to bring down those costs, but I noted then and note now that students spend about $1,300 per year on textbooks. Their total Cal Grant B award is $1,656. So if they spend $1,300 on average on textbooks, that only leaves about $350 a year for students to cover all of their other living costs with Cal Grant B. What SB 1357 does, it provides an additional $1,500 for all Cal Grant B recipients that would relieve the additional burdens of the other costs of attending college, which aren't impacted by the grants students are now getting. And theoretically, this would mean that those students who now have to work about 35 hours a week could work significantly less, put more time to their studies, get out more successfully and more quickly, and contribute back to the tax base of California. This bill is supported by TICAS. It's also supported by the Foothills de Anza, Los Rios, Peralta, San Bernardino, and San Diego Community College Districts, among others. With me today to testify, I have several folks, but first will be Matthew LaRoque with TICAS.
Thank you, Senator Block, Madam Chair. My name is Matthew LaRoque with the Institute for College Access and Success, TICAS, and I'll largely be echoing the remarks of Senator Block. We strongly support his effort to augment the Cal Grant B in order to help community college students pay for non-tuition costs. We're talking about books, supplies, transportation, and living expenses, and together these costs can make up more than 90% of the total cost of attendance for these full-time students at community colleges. In a recent analysis that we conducted, we found that despite low fees, low-income community college net costs after grant aid were typically higher than they were for four-year university students. And this may be counterintuitive, but it's because of those exceptional costs above and beyond fees and the fact that community college students traditionally receive less grant aid than their four-year counterparts. As Senator Block mentioned, at the majority of two-year colleges in our analysis, low-income students would need to work at least 35 hours per week to cover these costs, which is well beyond that which is deemed by researchers to be really acceptable. And in a forthcoming report that we are just on the precipice of releasing called On the Verge, we share stories from community college students we surveyed across the state about college affordability. And just to give a couple quick examples, our report details the severe housing and food insecurities that these students face, with 3 in 10 students reporting that they are solely responsible for their housing costs, and among financial aid recipients, 7 in 10 reported that if they got additional grant aid, then they would spend it on food. Cal Grant B enables students to focus more on their studies rather than working these long hours while enrolled, so a $1,500 augmentation to this award would undoubtedly go a long way toward helping low-income community college students enroll full-time, earn credentials, and get on the pathway to transfer. So for these reasons, we strongly urge your aye vote.
Thank you. Others in support?
Ryan McElhaney at the Community College League of California. Our boards haven't had a chance to take a position on this bill, but we do note that it is in line with our agenda of reforming the Cal Grant program to increase aid to our students so they can work less and get out quicker and be more academically successful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. I'm Brandon Biggert with the California Student Aid Commission. We've also not had an opportunity to take a position on this bill, but it does align very closely with our values and our policy priorities. This augmentation would go or move in the direction of restoring some of the historic value to the Cal Grant B Access Award, which has not kept pace with inflation or the rising costs that these students face in attending community colleges. So,
thank you.
Thank you, Mark McDonald, McCallum Group, on behalf of the Foothill De Anza, Los Rios, Peralta, San Bernardino, and San Diego Community College districts. And in addition to what's been said, I would note that more than the other segments, our students are traditionally older and dealing with family commitments, and this bill would help them with that and alleviate much of the need for them to take out extra loans. So we would urge your support on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Others in support of the bill? Please come forward.
Matthew Canty on behalf of the Faculty Association of California Community Colleges in support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Manny Diaz, representing the San Jose Evergreen Community College District in support.
Thanks. Okay, any others in support? Is there any opposition to the bill? Any questions from members?
I would move the bill, Madam Chair.
The bill has been moved. Senator Mona, you have a question.
Yes, thank you. I want to thank the author for bringing this forward. I'm going to be supportive today, and this is not an appropriations committee, but I'm just curious, where does this money come from, and what would be the estimated cost if this were fully implemented?
That's a great question. And I plan to have this discussion with Senator Lara down the road. But let me say, we've spent a lot of money as a state, hundreds of millions of dollars, in implementing the very important work that the chairwoman has done on student success. The biggest stumbling block left to me, in my mind at least, for student success is the amount of hours students have to work each week. Now, this would be not throwing good money after bad. It's good money after good. We're doing a lot of good things thanks to the chair. We need to now supplement that with this money. How much would it cost? About $200 million. Where would it come from? You recall last year, at the request of the California State University system, we tailored back the middle class scholarship. There were many abuses to middle class scholarship. People who actually were not middle class, had a lot of money, a lot of assets, were getting middle class scholarship money. I've supported and continue to support the middle class scholarship being used for middle class students at the CSU and UC. But we've already tailored that back so that the abuses go away. And we've also found now that the dollars set aside for middle class scholarship are very undersubscribed. Many fewer people than we anticipated are applying for that. So it is TICAS's estimate that there's about $153 million were previously scheduled to go to middle class scholarship that this year will be saved. And that money will grow to about $200 million or more by 17-18. So when I sit down with Mr. Lara, this is what I'm going to be talking to him about.
Good, and I appreciate that. Madam Chair, I know we're looking at policy in this committee, but just thank you for the indulgence, and it sounds like a good approach. So I will be supporting, and I think you have a motion already, right?
We have a motion.
Thank you.
Yes. I do want to say, though, that it is interesting how we make these allocations, because $200 million is about what it would take to restore child care. And it is at some point going to be related to whether or not kids have after-school programs, which is another key time when they drop out, they get into trouble, if they have no place to go and nothing to do, and in many cases, nothing to eat. So I hope that maybe we could look at all of these critical times in a young person's life and try to treat them equally. And I'm very interested and have been for a long time. I'm not carrying the bill this year. Someone else is who's going to be here after I'm termed out. But I'd like to take care of it this year for the after-school programs that are now going under. And we know that we have many members that care deeply about adequate child care for our very youngest kids. So I hope all of us will support all of these items.
Just out of curiosity, on page 3-4 of the analysis, last year there was a budget play to increase the grant by $39 million by Assemblymember Weber, and the question was asked on page 4 whether or not we should include that number and just codify that number into one big bill.
We're suggesting that this be in addition to that and separate, but I could certainly, I think that's a discussion I'll be having in approps. Does Tikas have a comment, if that's okay with you, Madam Chair?
Yes, thank you for that. Certainly the problems are many for community college students. As you know, we've pointed out in the past, it isn't just the size of the grants available, but also the extent to which many students don't get available grants because they're shut out of the program. So that's just to say that the solutions are many, and we have an open mind and look forward to working with the author's office to make sure we, focus in on, one of the many best solutions.
Okay, great.
And to be clear, I'm open to any delivery system, whether it's by the Chancellor's office or by the Commission, and open to looking at combining rather than having separate programs. I would urge your aye vote today so we can continue those discussions.
Okay. All right. With that, no other questions? Let's call the roll.
This is item number 8, SB 1357, due pass to appropriations. Liu?
Aye.
Liu, aye. Block?
Aye.
Block, aye. Hancock?
Aye.
Hancock, aye. Huff? Huff, no. Leyva? Mendoza? Monning? Aye. Monning, aye. Pan? Vidak? Aye. Vidak, aye. That's 5-1.
5-1. We'll hold the roll open for absent members.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. I'll entertain a motion for the consent, please. Okay, consent has been moved. We have 3 items on consent. SB 1068, item 1, item 7, SB 1258 as amended, and item 10, SB 1455. Please call the roll.
Liu?
Aye.
Liu, aye. Block? Block, aye. Hancock?
Aye. Aye.
Hancock, aye. Huff? Huff, aye. Leyva? Mendoza? Monning? Monning, aye. Pan? Vidak? Vidak, aye. That's 6.
6. We'll leave the roll open for absent members. Okay, Senator Huff, you have item 4, SB 1156. That I understand you've made better as we move along.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members. First, I want to thank the committee staff and chair for working diligently with my staff and me on the recommended amendments to the bill. So I'd like to accept all the amendments as committee amendments per our understanding. Current law offers various types of transfer opportunities. The Open Enrollment Act, a program I've been working on for many years now, was designed to provide additional public school options for students who live in zip codes with low achieving schools and give them an option to transfer to a higher performing public school in another school district as measured by the Academic Performance Index, or API. The API, along with a specified, sometimes confusing legislatively mandated calculation, has been the previous method for identifying the 1,000 lowest achieving schools whose enrollment assignment would trigger a student's eligibility for open enrollment. The last published list of 1,000 is outdated, with no new APIs being produced in the last 2 years. Also, it should be noted that some school districts previously objected to our proposed formula when we were crafting that legislation, which resulted in some of the lowest performing schools in California not being on the list at all. With the state adoption of a new assessment system called the California Assessment of Student Performance in Progress, or CASP, and the temporary and possibly permanent hiatus on the publication of a new API, there's an interest in using updated definitions and information more accurately reflecting the concept of persistently low-performing schools. The API is no longer being updated, and the last published list is based on the old STAR program instead of CASP scores. SB 1156 updates the eligibility for additional public school options for students enrolled in persistently low-performing schools by conforming definitions of persistently low performance in the newly enacted federal Every Student Succeeds Act, ESSA, signed into law in December of 2015 by President Obama, and California's new local control funding formula statutes. The Open Enrollment Act provides students who are otherwise zip code assigned to the lowest performing schools a choice to attend a higher performing school district, even if the neighborhood school is persistently low performing. Or as I like to say, if you can get there, you can go there. SB 1156 eliminates the confusing list of 1,000 schools. SB 1156 conforms the definition of low performing to state and federal law, and SB 1156 propose a change that would prioritize even further than current law by providing students identified as unduplicated under LCFF, that is, students in poverty, English learners, and students in foster care priority enrollment in an Open Enrollment Act transfer. Accordingly, SB 1156 helps the state protect students' constitutional guarantee to equitable opportunity for a quality public education in California. I have with me today the sponsor of the measure, Bill Lucia with Ed Voice, to speak further about the merits.
In support, please.
Madam Chair and members, Bill Lucia with Ed Voice. We are in support of the bill and wanted to point out that this is the only program for public school to public school transfer that has these priorities currently under the California law. You dealt with a program last week called Districts of Choice. There's a law called Place of Employment. So whether you work 10 hours or more in another district, or you reside as a nanny after Senator Lara's bill last year, you can have the opportunity for choice. There, as you know, there's the inter-district transfer program. There are magnet schools, there are charter schools. If you're affluent, you can actually move to another zip code. There are independent study programs with county offices of education, so those are opportunities. If you have the wherewithal with likely a two-parent family, where one parent can stay home and work with a student with independent study, there are private schools, and there's the homeschooling option too. This is the only program in California that establishes eligibility based on a child being assigned to a low-performing school. We want to also highlight that even going further than the current program and its current structure of priority, this would be the first program ever that also further prioritizes unduplicated kids under LCFF, so that you would have the priority added with the amendments that are being proposed in the bill today to add foster care children, English learners, and students in poverty as priority for enrollment in this program. So we believe that as the state of California, to make sure that every child has an equitable opportunity to learn in a public education system and going from a public school to a public school. Again, this is not talking about any other setting or governance structure, that this is an opportunity for every child to have a great education in a California public school, with priority being placed on foster care children, English learners, and students in poverty. And for those reasons, we ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Any others in support? Is there any opposition? The committee received any. Any questions from members? Bill has been moved. I'm curious, has there been any data collected about how successful this open enrollment program has been and whether or not students are achieving better in other school districts?
There hasn't been, and we would agree with the committee amendment. There had been a provision in the statute that, subject to federal funding being available, to collect that data and requirement of the department, and they've not done so, and so we agree that the recommended amendment would address that, and hopefully even there was discussion about incorporating the Legislative Analyst's Office to think about helping with that work. We do know that there have been dozens of applications for waivers at the State Board of Education, so we do know and there were issues arising both from the school districts of residence, school districts of enrollment, school districts that were on the list and didn't understand why, because there were other schools that were lower performing and the confusing issues, and then parents that were engaging in those. And we worked closely with members of the State Board of Education, with the governor's office, and with the president of the board, Mike Hurst, to establish a waiver policy that was fair for all parties and with the approval of the council of the state board. So we do know that it's being utilized, but we also do know that there's a lot of confusion, and the amendments as they're put forward for the program, we believe help avoid the confusion and stick with the LCFF that the legislature adopted 3 years ago, and those provisions, as well as the ESSA that President Obama signed in December. And rather than creating a whole nother apparatus to look at that question.
Okay. All right. Thank you. The bill has been moved. Let's call a roll.
This is item number 4, SB 1156. Do pass as amended to appropriations. Liu?
Aye.
Liu, aye. Block? Hancock?
Aye.
Hancock, aye. Huff? Huff, aye. Leyva?
Aye.
Leyva, aye. Mendoza?
Aye.
Mendoza, aye. Monning?
Aye.
Monning, aye. Pan?
Aye.
Pan, aye. Vidak?
Aye.
Vidak, aye.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members.
You have 8 votes. We'll leave the roll open for an absent member. Thank you. Okay, Senator Mendoza, you have 3 bills in front of us, SB 1072, SB 1225, and SB 1381.